Hello, and welcome to Sandra Renee Stanley Ministries. We are back today to talk about what are you going to do with that lemon. Many times we're dealt lemons in life. We just struggle with how we're going to deal with them. So I'm here today with Yolanda and Don, and we're going to talk about a real sensitive issue. One that when I was first starting ministry with Opening Doors for Women in Need, with women coming out of prison, I was really uncomfortable with how I was going to deal with women coming out that were homosexuals or lesbians, and I didn't know how to minister to them. I prayed and asked God, I'm just uncomfortable because I don't understand. And I think a lot of times in churches and ministries, we're uncomfortable because we just don't understand. In the churches, we are charged to serve and to help people. So our mission today is to just help have a clear understanding of how do we minister to people that are lesbian, homosexual. How do we minister to them? So I have Don and Yolanda here today. They have special lemons in their lives that they want to share with us today. So we're here today with Yolanda, and we're going to ask Yolanda to share her lemons in life. Hello, Yolanda. Thank you for coming today.
Hello. Thank you so much, Miss Sandra, for this opportunity. Like you've already said, we are dealt lemons sometimes, and I just wanted to share today about what I call my sour situation. I do not like to consider my children lemons per se, but the situation that I've had to deal with them has been somewhat bitter at times. And so my journey started when my children were in high school. My son came to me one day, and I knew something was wrong because he was following me around the house, and it was not normal for him to do that. Everywhere I stepped, he was right there, almost at my heels. So I knew that there was something going on, and I went into the restroom, and he came in, and he looked at me with this face, and he was like, "Mama, I did something bad." And I wanted to know, okay, well, what was that? And he said that he tried a relationship with one of the boys at his school. And I can tell you, as a mother, at that moment, my heart felt like it sank to the floor. It was crushed. I didn't know what to do. I didn't know how to respond. I didn't know what to say. So the best that I knew to do at that very moment was to take him and to pray with him. And that's the first thing that I did. I asked some questions, and he answered those questions. But it was a very emotional thing for me, for the both of us, because when I looked at him, I could tell that he was very disappointed to even come to me and tell me that. And so it was a very emotional thing. I tried to go beyond that day, saying the right things, thinking that if I said the right scriptures to him and I prayed more and told him those things that I knew that he'd learned from being raised in a church, that it was going to change, instantaneously. But that is not what happened at all. This has been a journey. And so to fast forward a little bit, about a year and a half, maybe later, my daughter, we were home, and my daughter had one of her female friends over. And so they were in her bedroom hanging out, and she had the door closed. So I went to the door, and I didn't knock on the door. I just opened the door. And when I opened the door, the way that she was kind of laying over in the other young lady's lap, immediately as a mom, I knew something's up with this. Something's not right with this. I felt it. And so I just looked, and it was almost like my daughter at the moment was kind of caught off guard. She wasn't expecting me to walk in. And I looked in the eyes of the young lady, and it was like emptiness. I saw emptiness. It was almost scary looking into her eyes, because it was almost like she was giving this message, this nonverbal message to me of, I got your daughter. And that's what I felt at that moment. I was devastated, because here a year or so earlier, my son had come to me with this, and I'm still trying to learn how to deal with it. I'm still trying to learn how to handle all of the emotions that come along with this, because I felt so many things at once. It was like a roller coaster ride. I was sad, I was angry, I was hurt, I was disappointed, I was confused. I just didn't know. And for this to come to me a second time, which I call it my double whammy. So if to me, it's almost like I was taking the first lemon, and you know, when you make lemonade and you're adding a little sugar and you're adding so that you can kind of get that sweetness that you want. So to me, I felt like, okay, I'm already trying to adjust my lemonade from what I've learned about my son. And I'm trying to get to this good sweet place with him. And now all of a sudden I felt like, okay, somebody's opened up the second lemon, and now I got to start all over with my lemonade because it's bitter and it's sour all over again. And that's kind of how I felt. So the journey of getting to this sweet place with both of them, you know, for me, now it's been a little over 10 years. So it was nothing like I anticipated. I thought that, okay, this is a phase, this is going to end really quickly. And don't get me wrong, I still have hope, and I still stand and I still believe that my children will be delivered from that. That's just what I believe and what I pray for them. But in the meanwhile, while God is doing what he does, I'm still working with my lemonade that I have right now. And so he has had to teach me so many things about loving on a whole nother level, loving my children in a new way. Because the enemy has tried to come in and he's tried to drive a wedge between me and my children. And he's tried to plant negative things in their mind that your mom really doesn't love you because she doesn't accept this or whatever. And that has nothing to do with it. I love my children with everything in me. But at the same time, my relationship with God, I refuse to allow my relationship with God to suffer because of what's going on with my children. So it has really been a journey for me. It has been one that I wouldn't wish it upon any other mother because it's difficult. It's difficult. And I've even gone through a grieving process with my daughter, more so because my daughter is the one who decided that she would start changing her appearance of wearing, you know, guy attire and wearing cologne instead of perfume and things like that. So with her, it's almost like I felt like I was grieving losing the girly girl in my daughter. And one day she came to me, and this was an eye opener too, because she said, "Mama, I never have been a girly girl." And so I was like, wow, okay. So when she said that to me, I said, okay, well, maybe she feels like she's never been a girly girl, but I definitely felt like I lost the feminine side of my daughter because God has given every female that's born on this planet a feminine side. And so with my children, I can tell you, it has just been a uphill, downhill roller coaster ride all the way around. And so what I would like to share with other mothers is, first of all, deal with your emotions, because as long as we're emotional and we're all over the place, we can't really help our children very much. And believe it or not, our children are emotional. They feel a lot. They go through a lot that we don't even know. To this day, I'm still learning things that my children experienced and went through that I had no idea of. But as adults, they're sharing things with me, and they're more open now with me. One of the other things I would say to other mothers is listen to the heart of your child, because for a long time, I wanted them, as the mom, I wanted them to hear me. I wanted them to hear what I had to say. I wanted them to listen to the scriptures that I wanted to share with them, and it's absolutely nothing wrong with that. But please make sure that every time your child comes around, that's not the only thing they get from you, because they want a mother first. They don't want the preacher all the time. They want a mother. And so I would just encourage other mothers to do that, you know, and spend quality time with your children. Don't let that stop you from being with your children. I can only think about when I was younger. I didn't make all the best choices, all the best decisions, but my parents never turned their backs on me. They never gave up on me. They were always there. They were always loving on me. And I've had to be reminded of that, because that same grace that was given to me, I've had to extend that same grace to my children. And so it's been a journey. And for those that are going through it now, please don't give up on your children. Don't give up on them because they need you now more than they ever have before. It's too much tragedy going on with our children. Too much. You have some that are being kicked out. I was recently shared a story of a young lady in college, and when she came out to her parents, they withdrew her college money. So this baby had to drop out of college because they put her out the house and everything. And that is just devastating to me to even think about that. Yes, is it hard? Yes, it's hard. Is it emotional? Yes, it's emotional. It's emotional for everybody involved. It's emotional for the whole family. But as a family, as mothers, as parents, we have to hang in there because I refuse to believe anything less than the fact that my children are my blessing and that God did bless me with these children. And so that's the way that I am going to always view them. Not as my lemons. Now, my situation has been sour and it's been bitter at times, but my children are my blessings.
Oh, Yolanda, thank you so much for sharing your story. But I also want to encourage people. I know it's someone out there with the same struggles or issues that they would love to share or just, so she has a book. It's called My Children Are Gay and They're Still My Blessings. And so you can go get that on Amazon. Her name is Yolanda Johnson Bailey. So I've read it. I mean, when I got the book the first day, I couldn't put it down. So I want you to encourage her by reading her book and being a blessing to someone. So the one thing I heard from while Yolanda was talking was love. And I do know that we need to love. And now, Yolanda, I didn't ask you for us, the church, how were you treated, or how were your children treated in the church?
Actually, we did not. I'm very grateful and blessed that we did not have any negative experiences from our church members or our church family. And so that was really great because I know that's not always the case, but we were very blessed and fortunate that for us, it just wasn't a negative experience.
Thank you. That's what I want to make sure that we're getting that out there, that when we're helping, that we're not shaming or hurting people. And now I'd like to turn to our second guest, who is a longtime friend of mine, and I call her my sister, Miss Dawn Johnson. And I want to hand her off the lemon, and I want her to be able to share with us her lemons with this issue we're talking about today.
Hi. When I first got the news about my daughter, it was through a phone call. A young lady kept calling the house, kind of late at night, and saying, "May I speak to to Lena?" And I kept saying, "Well, she's in the bed or she's not here." And finally, she said, "Well, I'm her girlfriend." Well, me, I'd been saved, I guess, maybe about 4 or 5 years, so I was gung ho for the Lord. So honey, you don't be calling here and don't be this and that, and God's not pleased with that. And that was the way I felt because that's what I had been taught in the church. But when I began to talk with my daughter about it and I began to pray about it, God just showed me that it's love. And I told my pastor about it. And the first thing my pastor said was, "But what you don't do is, don't throw your children away. Don't throw them away," because so much that had went on from parents, churches, and society at large. So I just began to pray and ask God, how was I to deal with an issue that I thought was wrong on every level? And he said, "Love. By loving kindness have I drawn thee." So I began to just love on Lena. We would go in the stores and things like that, and I would deliberately hold her hand and kiss on the cheek so she could understand that it didn't matter what other people thought. This is you and our relationship. I'm your mom, and I'm going to love you wherever you are. I'm going to help you hide the body. That's how much mama loves you. So we just began to have a better relationship. She didn't smile a lot. And that's another story for her to tell. But there were reasons for that. But as she began to come into herself and to accept who she was and understanding that mom was dealing with this from another place, then I began to hear her laugh. And just to hear her laugh was I can't explain it to you because I didn't hear her laugh, a genuine belly roll type of laugh. And I would hear that from her with her siblings and things, and it would just make me cry because I hadn't heard her laugh, and that meant that she hadn't been living. That meant that she had had a great struggle, and she was dealing with some things that she didn't know how to deal with. But once her family began to accept her for who she was and how she was better able to relax and to enjoy life. And I remember once we were at a family gathering and at my brother's house, and it was told to me, you brought her and her girlfriend, and she's just a disgrace to the family. And I responded, I called and asked permission for my daughter to bring her friend with her. This is not your house. You're overstepping a boundary, and I would appreciate it that you would not do that with me and my daughter. This is my daughter, and if you don't like it, if you have an issue with that, you need to learn how to deal with it, because I'm going to protect my daughter. I'm going to fight you about my baby. So things were going great, and I guess maybe 10 years later, I'm in my room chilling, and my son comes in and he sits on the bed and he said, Mom, I need to talk with you. And he had been acting out a lot for about 2 or 3 years, and I wasn't understanding what was going on with him. And when he sat on the bed, he said, Mom, I'm having issues. I'm struggling. And I said, struggling with what? And he said, I'm struggling with my sexual identity. And we just sit on the bed, and he cried, and I began to cry, and I got mad. And I said, God, I don't want to deal with this again. Why do I? He said, they have to have parents. And I chose you to be their parent. I chose you, and I chose you for a reason, because you can deal with this. You think that you can, but if you keep me in the midst of it, you can do it, because love bears all things. Love never becomes obsolete. So no matter what choices our children make in life, our place is to love our children. And we have such an amazing relationship today with my children, because it, like Yolanda said before, it has had its moments of being better. It has, because of the way we think and because of the standards that we have set as a church. But God's greatest commandment was that you love one another. That meant our babies too. There are thousands and thousands of children that walk the streets in cities like San Francisco that are without parents because the parents threw their children away. Just threw their children away. And I'm thankful today that God had given me another heart, another way to love, not from my point of view, but from His love. His love is endless and boundless, and it never ever is predicated on what we do. It's predicated on faith. The whole thing is based on faith, and we believe by faith that our children will be delivered. I believe by faith that they're going to take what they have when they're delivered and use it to draw thousands of other children out of the places of darkness. That because I've had some places in my life as well, and if God did it for me, He is no respecter of person. I truly believe with everything in me that He's going to do it for mine as well. And my lemons today that I've taken, I've made lemonade because He has given me another opportunity to minister to children that have been rejected, molested, abused. And I get the privilege of loving on these children, on these young girls and young boys, and telling them how special they really are, and how amazing they are, and how kind they are, and that it has just been a wonderful experience to see them grow. They go to church. We had some issues in church, and I was like a lioness. No, you're not going to condemn my children and make them come home in tears. That's not happening. We're not going to do that. Not with my children. That's not how God is. God is not that kind of a God. God is a loving God, and He does not condemn us for our sins. He said in matter of fact, He said there is no condemnation to those that are in Christ Jesus. So, I can't take your sin and bash you with it. I can't take my children's sin and bash them and make them feel unloved. That is not God. That is not. His greatest commandment says that you love one another. That's how all men will know that you are my disciples, by your love. So, if it can't start in my home, If I can't start with my children and love in my home, how do I love the stranger? How do I love the rapist? How do I love the pedophile? How do I love the murderer? How do I love the stripper? If I don't love my own precious babies, how do I love the world that has a greater burden to be dealt with? And it all has to start with love. So I thank God today that he saw me as fit enough to be the mother of two beautiful gay children. And it taught me how to love beyond my scope of loving and to go into a whole nother realm of love, because there are different realms of love. There are different realms of God, but God is always God. His name is love. His name is mercy. So we have to, God does everything for reasons. And for us to minister the way that we are to minister, we have to do it in love. We have to do it in love. So my lemonade is today to minister on another level with all of God's children.
Thank you, Dawn. Thank you, Yolanda, for sharing your stories. We're praying that someone can be touched and hurt. We're praying that someone in the church can learn how to love and understand how to minister to people that they're not uncomfortable with. So we just come to you today and we just ask you to go to SandraReneeStanleyMinistries.com, our new website, or either YouTube, Facebook, and to see our videos and continue to watch those at Sandra Renee Stanley Ministries. So thank you for tuning in, and we'll have more lemons coming towards you. Just remember, you can find us on SandraReneeStanleyMinistries.com, also on Facebook, Sandra Renee Stanley, and subscribe to us, please, and follow us. If you're interested in being on our show, please notify me and let me know. Thank you so much.